Okay, so we're going to see how the USSR cards in the early game can really give the USSR a strong dominating position in the game, and really start stacking them up some points so that they can end up having a nice win mid-war. So let's check out Europe first, and as you can see, Europe has a lot of offensive cards which the USSR can use. West Germany is affected by blockade. France is affected by two cards, Suez Crisis and De Gaulle leads France. De Gaulle leads France is very important because it slows down the US points into accessing France, because De Gaulle leads France essentially gives a 3-point swing. So slowing down the US approach into France allows the USSR to potentially just take it. Getting access to France is a bit hard. My usual way is to put 2 points into West Germany so I can open a road through there. Cambridge 5 can do it as well, and socialist government is a great headline into opening, just peeling points off places like Italy, and it will become a defining headline card as it can bring Italy down to underneath US control and allows the USSR to put over control in Italy. So moving on to Asia, and in Asia you find that the USSR isn't offensive in the sense that it can attack the US points. It is offensive in the fact that it's got a lot of cards that can really move the points around. So these are the 4 main areas where you're going to be fighting for control. Let's start with South Korea. South Korea has Korean War, which slows down US points into South Korea until that card is passed, because that really sucks for the US if it lands. Also note that South Korea can just be taken with any 4-point card after cooing something. Probably even putting this 4 points into South Korea to take it can give you a crucial battleground there. Pakistan and India is usually very safe from the US control, because if you do coup Iran, as we'll cover in the Middle East strategy, if you do coup Iran, you just shut down Pakistan and India from the US, unless they land India-Pakistan War, which is the sole card. Lastly would be Thailand, and Thailand is a major battleground because Asia is important because it splits. There's 6 battlegrounds, and essentially that means it could be split into both presence each. Thailand is affected, has no US cards which affected, so the USSR can really be offensive, and the 2 cards are Vietnam Revolt, which gives them a nice area right next to Thailand, or Decolonization, which allows the USSR to spread amongst the Southeast Asia region. So for the USSR, it's really about spreading as quickly as possible. However, they don't have any headline cards which can really support an Asia-centric build. What you do have to rely on is these access cards and these access points into stealing these battlegrounds from the US. The most important location in this place would probably be South Korea, in the sense that Korea is the easiest location for the USSR to reach. It just needs a 4 ops card to take, and it easily prevents the US from maintaining battlefield parity. The last area is Middle East. Now, this is a bit deceptive because there is not a lot of cards which the USSR can use to affect the Middle East. However, the important thing is that it is only locked out at DEFCON 2. And because it's only locked out in DEFCON 2, it means that the USSR can use their coup advantage, being able to coup at the start of every single turn, essentially, to really take control of the Middle East. And so, as you can see, Israel is affected by 2 cards, Arab-Israeli War and Suez Crisis, and Egypt is affected by Nasser. The standard opening for the Middle East, for good Middle East domination, is in the first turn. The first action the USSR will coup Iran. Iran essentially means that the US is locked out of India, Pakistan, and if that succeeds, the US will have to start putting points near and around Israel to keep a presence in the Middle East, and that could be affected by a really strong headline card which can really clear out those points. So headlining Arab-Israeli War first turn, or Suez Crisis second turn, third turn, can really remove the US presence from the Middle East. And there's been many games where Arab-Israeli War first turn headline, Iran gets couped, and if those are successful, there is no point in the Middle East for the US. Alright, just two last notes before I finish this article. The first one of which is how to spread before mid-war. And this is turn 3, and spreading around the world is very important because the USSR doesn't really have a lot of cards which can do that, especially during mid-war where the US will outstrip it by cards. So it really boils down to, for the USSR, the two strongest cards it has in its repertoire is destalinization and decolonization. Destalinization is so important for the USSR to spread, but there's lots of costs in using it. Using it too early, like turn 1, turn 2, means you're really weakening your position in the 3 main battlegrounds where you're going to get points scored. And you really have to make a crucial choice whether or not you want to weaken certain areas to really focus on a mid-war win. Mind you, it's usually always better to weaken a location to spread these points around, because it's really hard for the US, especially with a coup advantage, to stop you putting that 1 point in Chile, 1 point in Venezuela, 1 point in Mexico, 1 point in Panama, and you getting control over the Americas that way. Decolonization is very important because it gets the USSR not only the crucial battleground of Southeast Asia, which we'll cover in mid-war article, but also in Africa, where you can just rack a lot of points up because the USSR can defend it easily, having a coup advantage. The last thing is traps, and in early war, the USSR have to be afraid of one trap, and that is the CIA. The CIA card is essentially an instant loss if it's played at DEFCON 2 by the USSR. It's cool if the US plays it at any point, but it's a card that you have to really manage in your hand. You can't space it because it's one op, maybe after Brezhnev Doctrine in mid-war, but that's not really the best use of your resources. What you want to do with CIA is you want to play it when you do not have a battleground country or have any ops in a battleground country when it's DEFCON 2. So if you get to play CIA, turn 1, turn 2, before you've destalinization, before you decolonize to Africa, you can let it go pretty much scot-free. You could actually even coup using it, and the opponent can't really use it. The only trouble card is Fidel is the only card which can force Soviet IPs outside of DEFCON controlled areas. So you have to be careful if the US player uses Fidel. Thank you very much for listening to my strategy articles, and hopefully see you across the board.